Okay, so now that we've got some rails in here, let's work on the kind of sketching out the table boundaries, or just the main walls of it. And I think it's hard to do that without seeing the flippers in here, because they give you kind of a size, some bearing for just the size of everything. Almost, in some sense, they're almost like the eyeballs of the table. You know, when you draw a person, you generally start with the eyes, and you kind of work your way around from there. So, but I want to spend some time talking just about drawing the flippers. But I want to do this first. So what we're just going to do is, if you look in the library, I'm sure I'll leave this in the file somewhere, is you can just pull out flipper mock-up and just drag them out. So they'll just, just kind of arbitrary shapes for about the size of the flippers. And this is actually the same size ones I used in the kit itself. So they're going to match. And let's begin drawing the kind of the framework for the table. So, but in between the videos, I did shrink up the rails about 90%. You can see, obviously, I reversed them around here. I did when I moved the shadow to being on the inner part of the table here, I did actually have to change some of the artwork, but it's just generally about the same. So let's make the kind of the top border of the table curve around with this shape right over here. So if you guys remember, I'll just set this to be, you know what, let's do all of our mock-up objects as green. For some reason, I'm kind of favoring that green today. I think it looks good on that brown table. So you'll remember that we had the rectangle options over here, the corner radius set pretty high. I'm going to set this to 300. I believe before we had it at about 250, and I think that'll give me a nice corner radius for the top part of that here. And again, obviously I'm drawing a big fill shape, but the main thing I want from this is just the stroke, and then I'll begin working around from there. So do that kind of big like this, and if you double click inside of a fill shape, it's going to end up selecting the stroke around it. So you can see I just kind of double clicked and then moved it up like that, and there we go. That's mostly what I'm looking for. Might hit the Q key and just kind of bring that in just a little bit. Something like that. Of course, we can always change that later on. And I'm going to just cut these off, get rid of this bottom shape. And I'm just going to copy and paste this back in place again. Oops, I got the ball with it, but that's okay. I'm going to lock that. The stuff that I had before is all on this layer called completed. And from here, what we're going to do, let's copy. Actually, you know what? We could just take a square at this point. Get rid of the stroke. We don't need to start with a stroke on there. And then and we don't need our corner radius now, because I'm just going to draw this just around the stage itself. Let's do something like this. And then we can kind of just box in what we've got. So I'm going to move that line over there. And the only reason I'm doing that is just so I can drop a fill color in the inside of that. There we go. Get rid of what's hanging out that way. And then, yeah, I think we've got a decent enough top to it. That's hanging out a bit over top the stage itself, which is okay. I mean, you can make these tables as tall as you want on the height. All right, so let's grab a square, and I'm going to just draw right on top of the layer that we've already got, so just the existing green artwork. Do something right like this. Oh, and you know what? I have a green stroke around it, which I'm not actually looking to include. So let me get rid of that, and I noticed that I still had the green stroke around what I had there previously. I'm going to get rid of that as well. And then I'm going to curve this down. To just kind of run right along with the rails that we've got. Don't have to do that, but we can. And then I'm going to do another square right about here. And I keep forgetting to turn that stroke off. I just don't need it that much at this point. Going to angle that down. And then we're going to do just kind of a, little ramp portion over here. Let's see. All right. I don't want to say ramp, just a some part for the ball to roll on. How about that for a technical term? The portion of the table that the flippers are near. Kind of really what I'm most interested in getting together at this point is just a feel for the gutters that are going to drain the ball down into here and make sure that they are kind of wide enough. Okay, so it's like take our ball and just sort of size it up. Okay, that would work. And then can our ball fall down into here, get onto the flipper, things like that. And of course, we're going to really make these look much better later. I'd say with one thing you do want to start to kind of check though is that you have a nice line like this, kind of going up here for your flipper. And I'm not positive that these are angled down at about exactly 30% or so. Well, and some of that's really just up to you guys. I don't think you would want your flipper to start though at some crazy angle that pinball aficionados would consider repulsive. Something like that. I think what you want to avoid is that when the ball goes down here, you don't want it to kind of bump up or down drastically to get onto the flipper. You want it to be pretty smooth. Okay. All right, so we've got that left side. I think if you wanted, you could probably copy this, put it over here. And what we do have to leave room, though, for is the actual kind of plunger lane. So if you are going to copy it, I'd say start to chop off a good portion of it and then just move it over, and we'll adjust that accordingly. Best idea would probably be to get that other lane in there first. And if you want to just basically take that same angled portion, put it over here, you can. And let's do this. Just kind of draw up. And you can kind of see that we're almost running a little low on space, aren't we? Let me try this one more time. Get it from the bottom. Oh, somehow my stroke managed to get back on there. That's okay. Let me grab the ball again just for sizing purposes. Put it over here and over here. Okay, it looks like we'd have enough to get it down there, and drew that dangerously tall. We lock that bottommost layer and be sure good thing I didn't intersect that. That would have been a bit of a problem. Okay, so let's maybe make this a little bit fatter. I believe we do have the space for that. Move that over there so that merges in with that piece, and it's going to clip off some of the bottom. You will notice at this point, though, this is one continuous piece of artwork, and in terms of getting it in to the kit and making it a nice solid wall, that works well. We could just export this out as one giant piece of artwork. There's no islands of artwork in here, so for example, if we try to do something like put a circle over here, and then export all this out as one piece, when Xcode makes a alpha mask body for that, it's gonna have to pick between one or the other. Okay, so one would end up getting ignored, probably the one that you don't want. And all right, let's get back and deal with this lane. That's a good term, right? So it looks like this would probably need to go down just a tad. Get that over there, put that over this way. Alright, and it looks like this probably could go a little further that way. Okay. Just going to move that down a little bit. And then, of course, we're going to want to do, some piece over here that curves out so that when the ball does get launched, it hopefully ends up going into our rail system. And you know what? It looks like are we on the same layer as that rail? No, we're not. Oh, it's on here with the completed stuff. I'm just going to move that off there and just paste it above, just because it's kind of annoying me that, I don't know. And yeah, let's figure out how we're going to do that. Probably start with the square again. Let's this time let's get rid of the fill. Maybe go back to 250, and we'll just kind of eyeball this out. I do want to be above that layer with the wood. There we go. Okay, so something like that. And lock that layer. Okay, so that ended up connecting in with that shape just because I'm drawing them on the same layer, which is maybe actually okay in this case. So I've got a stroke right next to this little piece of fill artwork, which, like I said, could be all right. Let's copy and then just paste in place that, and then I'll move it down, and then just kind of close that off, and I should be able to then put a fill in there. Let's see why it's not working. Okay, it's because these maybe are on two separate layers. Yeah, and the only reason I can tell that is because when I had this selected and then I went over here and I held down the shift key to grab that fill artwork, you'll notice it's got two layers highlighted over there. So just cut one of them off and or just cut them off and then just put them back together on the same layer. And I feel like now these should, yep, let me put that in. And then I'm just going to double click the stroke. It'll connect all the, or it'll select all the other strokes it's connected to, and then give me something like that, which is pretty okay. And I would say that this is probably a good sort of starting, I don't know, layout for many tables. It's not that interesting, but it you know, it's got kind of your basics. It's got the, you know, the alleys that run into the drain, these ramps, whatever we're gonna call them, and then of course your almighty plunger alley. So if you wanted, you know, you could always select some of these and just call them kind of like you know, mock-up art 1, wall mock-up, something like that. Mock-up art 2. Maybe connect these, or just do these as one, just so they're in the library. And then of course you could just you know, break them back apart. I'm using a hotkey for that. That's just this one right here, break apart, which brings them back down to being just vector artwork again. And then yeah, I mean, so, you know, now we'd have to think about this is a bit too easy, you know, for the ball to go down here, and I think even on this one too, because think about it, if you know, the flipper makes the ball go over this way, the ramp, you know, if it is raised up, the ball could go underneath it. So probably what's going to happen a lot of the time is it ends up over here, goes into here, and maybe it goes right directly down in here. Maybe it skips over that. You know, who knows? Of course, it depends on how fast it's going, all that stuff. But I think it is a little too easy for it to go into both of these ramps over here. And so that's one of the, or alleys, and that's one of the things you're going to have to start to think about, is you don't want it to be too hard to get the ball lost, right? And you know, then to deal with things like that, it's well, so for example, what we do is let's get rid of the stroke. Well, yeah, that would solve it too. But I was thinking more along lines of something like this. You know, you do pieces like that kind of jut out, you know, and they don't even have to be so pronounced. Yeah, but you know, this gets into kind of like, well, what are the objectives in your table too? So it's a kind of tricky thing to say, yeah, do this, but you know, all I'm really trying to get at is that maybe you don't want to make it so easy for the ball to just kind of fall along this wall and then go back down into the air, right? So at least just have like something that prevents that from happening. And a lot of times what you'll see is a situation like this where they have, you know, one or more kind of holes that the ball could fall into over here. So you might want to do something like that, and then like this down here. So there's two of them. Maybe even well, the ball's pretty small relative to those. Yeah, you could even fit in maybe a third one. Let's see if I can select one of these guys. Yeah, maybe, so that's an idea. And then of course, there's all sorts of interior walls that we can add in here too that are gonna, make it so it's not that hard for the ball to fall in. But this gives you an idea of kind of sketching out the bare bones part of your table, and feel free to adjust it from there.